Passover, and at the same time, there's no parsha this week because we don't read any parsha. Just actually, we do read a parsha of Shmini on Shabbat, but right now it's Passover. So one of the stories that I wanted to share with you. Have you guys heard the story of the longest Pesach? They kept Pesach for 9 days. No. Okay, so this story happened in Prague. I think Prague is in Czechoslovakia or something, one of those countries. So this was a rabbi there. That he was a very, very tall rabbi. His name was Rabbi Yecheskel Landau. He was a genius, a real, real scholar, a very, very righteous person. And actually, he lived in the same time as the Baal Shem Tov. And the Baal Shem Tov said that a third of the world stands on the shoulders of Rabbi Yecheskel Landau. He's also known from his book, Noida Bihuda. That's the name of his book. So they usually call him the Noida Bihuda, not so much Rabbi Yecheskel Landau. So he was a very big scholar. And he used to stay in the synagogue many nights until late at night and learn. So one night he was coming home very late and he sees at the corner of the street, there's this Christian boy sitting and crying. A young boy, I don't know, teenager, younger than a teenager. He was sitting and crying. So he asks him, my child, why are you crying? So the kid says, leave me alone, Rabbi. I don't want to talk to you, So he says, no, tell me what's bothering you. Maybe I can help you. So he again pushed off the rabbi. No, you can't help me. Finally, when the rabbi pressures him, so he says, let me tell you my story. He said, I'm an orphan. I don't have a father, mother, whatever it is, but you have a father only. And he says, what happens is my uncle took me to his house to raise me. But not because my uncle is a nice guy. He's not a nice guy. He took me because on the condition that I'm going to make money for him. He's a baker, and he gives me 25 bagels or loaves every day. And he says, you have to sell all 25 every day. If you sell one less, he beats me up at night when I come home. So it says most of the time I manage to sell the bread. I don't have a problem. The only times that I have problem is in the winter when people, it's very cold, the hands in their pockets, and I say in the street, hey, do you want to buy bagel? He says, leave me alone, no, stop pestering me. I'm not in the mood of, getting cold. But usually I sell it. Today I sold all the breads. But when I was coming home, I was so happy. Then I put my hands in my pocket. There was not a single coin in there. I found out that I had a hole and they all fell out. So it says that's why I'm afraid to go home. I don't have the breads and I don't have the money. And I know my uncle is going to terribly beat me up. So then at Noida Bihuda, Rabbi Cheskel Landa tells him, come to my house, I'll help you. He takes him to his house. So his wife and daughter, they say, oh my gosh, what's going on? This strange goy, non-Jewish guy coming in the house. So he says, don't worry about it. He goes to his drawer and he takes 25 coins, whatever it was, and he gives it to this guy. Now, the story doesn't say what the guy's name is, but the one that was telling the story calls him Albert. I don't know why, but whatever name you want, let's call him Albert, doesn't matter. Anyways, that was a story, and Rabbi Cheskel Landau completely forgot about it. He didn't even remember, because he did these kindnesses so often, they didn't remember anything. So then one year, Pesach came, Passover came. It was the night before the last day of Passover, right? That means this year Passover finishes on Thursday. He was in his study in his house on Wednesday night. So he hears a very loud knock on his door, very late at night, last day of Pesach, and says, Rabbi, open up the door. So he says, who is this? He says, open the door. He opens up the door. It's very important, I want to talk to you. He opens the door and he says, do you remember me? It was this huge, buff guy. And he says, no, I don't remember you. Who are you? So it's not that same guy, Albert, that you met me many years ago when I was younger, and you gave me the 25 coins, so I shouldn't get beaten up by my uncle. I have to tell you something very important. So he says, okay, come in. The guy, Albert, comes in, and then he says, Rabbi, is it true that tomorrow is the last day of Pesach? So he says, yes, that's true. And he says, Rabbi, tell me, is it true that a day after Passover, you guys buy your breads from non-Jewish bakeries? There's nothing, again, if a baker makes kosher bread, it really doesn't matter if he's a Jewish guy, not a Jewish guy. And I'm saying he's doing it for business. There's no problem. But again, Jews usually like to buy from Jewish bakeries. But let's go back 300 something years ago. There were no freezers. There were no refrigerators, right? And then you can make bread a day after Passover till you go get the flour and until you're going to go make the dough. And then till they heated their ovens, they have to put wood in the ovens, it would take, or coals. It would take a long time. So there was no way that they were able to make bread in Jewish bakeries a day after Pesach. I just want to let you know, you guys love to have pizza after Pesach, right? How do they make so much pizza? You know, they make the dough before Pesach, they put it in the freezer, and they sell it to a non-Jew during the 8 days. Otherwise, it's impossible to make so much dough. So you're actually eating pizza, which the dough is frozen for 8 days. Again, nothing unhealthy about it, but that's how they make it. So these days we have the technology, no problem. You have the tools, you can make it. In the olden days, it was impossible. So the rabbi says yes, because we can't make any bread in the Jewish bakeries. It takes a day to get the flour, to make the dough, to heat the oven. So we buy bread from non-kosher bakeries because they're kosher. I mean, non-Jewish bakeries because they're kosher. So Suzuki Rabbi, I got to tell you a very important story. My uncle came home today. There were four bakers, four major bakeries in the city of Prague at that time. And he had bottles of liquid with him. And he was laughing. And I asked him, Uncle, why are you laughing so much? So he told me the reason why I'm laughing is because we're going to get rid of the Jews once and for all in the city of Prague. You see these bottles of liquid? They're all poison. You're going to put it in the bread that we're going to make for the Jewish ghetto. And tomorrow, not tomorrow, the day after tomorrow, 2 days from now, it's going to be end of Passover. They're going to come buy bread from us. They're all going to die. Now, those days, there was no autopsy to go check if they were poisoned or none of these things. So it says, once and for all, we're going to get rid of all the Jews. So this Albert tells Rabbi Cheskel Landau, because you really helped me years ago, I'm telling you this, and because I don't like my uncle, but I have to go back home very soon. Otherwise, my uncle is going to be suspicious. Well, I'm not coming home till so late. But use your wisdom. Do whatever you can do to save the Jewish people. And remember, he wanted to do a few things. He wanted to make sure that Jews don't buy bread the day after Passover, but he wanted to get these bakers and put them in jail. So he's going to go in the synagogue and say, people don't buy bread from them because there is poison. You know what I'm saying? So he's going to go in the city and they know there's poison in the bread. They're not going to get caught. So he had to think of an idea that the Jews shouldn't buy bread from the non-Jewish bakers, and at the same time, these guys should get caught. So he goes in the morning, the 8th day, to the synagogue. Now, the Jews lived in ghettos those days. In that ghetto was a huge ghetto. You had many, many small shuls, but he was a rabbi of the big, big synagogue. So a lot of times, people want to pray fast. They would go to the small synagogues and pray fast. So that morning, when he goes to the synagogue on the 8th day of Passover, he tells people, guys, there's an important message that I have to give over this afternoon. This afternoon, which is the last mincha of Passover, nobody's allowed to go to the small synagogues. Everybody has to come to the main shul. I have to make a very big announcement. So, they're going to the ghetto, they give this message, and then everybody comes to the huge synagogue. So the rabbi says, Rabbi Isai, Rabbotam is my masters. We have made a mistake. There was a mistake in the calendar. We started keeping Pesach one day early. Right? And you were supposed to start Pesach a day later. You started Pesach. So what do you mean? The calendar says, we started Pesach on time. There was a mistake in the calendar. So really today is not the last day of Pesach. Last day of Pesach is going to be tomorrow. Nobody should buy any bread because you're still not allowed to eat chametz. You have to eat matzah. And because tomorrow is also a holiday, we're going to ask everybody to come to the synagogue late. Because on holidays, by the way, they start praying a lot later. Now I'm going to go through this. Let's see if you guys know. You're not going to like this halacha, by the way. On Shabbat, you start praying later. Why? Because it's a mitzvah to sleep on Shabbat. This you like, right? You like to sleep on Shabbat. So during the day, you have to go to work. You get about 6 o'clock, go to the synagogue. You finish praying at 6:30. But most synagogues on Shabbat, they start at 8:30. Because there's a mitzvah to sleep. Remember this halacha. I'm sure none of you are going to forget it. So if your mom is going to tell you, how come you're not getting up early on Saturday? It's a mitzvah to sleep. But again, only till you pray. Don't sleep till 5 in the afternoon. Because then you miss the prayings. But then it says in Yom Tov, on the holidays, they will even go to synagogue later. Why? So on Shabbat, you can't cook, right? But on the holidays, you could cook. So it says the men were such good husbands that would help their wives early in the morning to cook. So they would come to the synagogue later. That's what the rabbi said. You come on Yom Tov, on the holidays, late to the synagogue. I said it here once. Bunch of men said, Rabbi, please don't say this halachot. We're not interested to help our wives cook. So anyways, So it says, that's why they pray on Yom Tov very late. So it says tomorrow you come late for the holiday prayers because there's no, it's not a regular day. Anyway, so the people understand and they believed him because he was a big rabbi. They had a lot of respect for him. So the next morning, they all are going to the shul, and meanwhile, all these bakers are coming trying to sell the bread, and no Jews are buying bread. Says, why don't you want to buy bread? Says, today's Pesach. So what do you mean? Pesach was finished yesterday. That's what the calendar says. Says, well, there was a mistake in the calendar. So nobody buys any bread, and they all go to the synagogue. Guess which person was the only person missing, not coming to the synagogue? None other than the rabbi himself. So they told everybody, come late to the synagogue, the rabbi is not there. So suddenly people see that the rabbi is coming with the chief of police and with a big dog in the hands of chief of police. They go straight to one of these vendors of bread, and he says, sir, can I have one of your breads? He takes one of the breads and he gives it to his dog to eat. The dog dies on the spot. That's what happened. So then they actually imprisoned, the 4 bakers for trying to kill all the Jews of Prague, because this rabbi was very, very much respected and he had some connections to the government. And that's how all the Jews of Prague got saved 330 years ago. But what do we learn from this story? You see, whenever we can help somebody, honestly, it doesn't matter, especially in America, we learned that. It's a color-blind country. You don't judge anybody by their color. Doesn't matter if he's black, white, Chinese, who cares? You're a human being, you're a human being. Also, when it comes to religion, doesn't matter what religion a person has. If we can help him, of course, our brothers and sisters come first. But if you have the ability to help everybody, doesn't matter, Christian, Muslim, doesn't matter. As long as we can help them, we should help them. And we learn from this story, because this rabbi gave 25 coins to a teenager not to get beaten up by his uncle. Years later, that caused the entire, all the Jews of the city of Prague to get saved. Well, I don't know, I mean, if somebody tells you, non-Jews don't help them, don't listen to them. Doesn't matter, the guy's homeless, he's Jewish, he's not Jewish, he needs help. If you can help, why not? You have to help them, actually, it's a mitzvah to help them. Whatever the Torah says, that even a non-Jew that it lives amongst you, the Chai Imach says you have to support him if he needs help. And I always say this, when you look at all these organizations that help homeless or places of disaster, people that volunteer to help, 40% of them are Jewish. Jews are 0.02. We are less than 0.5%. So you might imagine maybe there's less than 0.5% people should be helping in these disastrous places. But Jews have such a wonderful heart that you have 8 billion people in the world, right? And out of all these guys that do whatever kindness and they do volunteer to help, 40% is Jews. That's what we have been taught. You always have to do good things. When in Haiti years ago, there was like a big tornado or something, who opened up the first medical place in a tent to help them? Israeli government. Before anybody else. No neighboring countries came. Israel flew big tents, with all their, whatever you call it, technology, whatever they had. And actually the Haitians thanked them. So this is what a Jewish heart is. That's story number 1. Story number 2, this is a more of a recent story from maybe 70, 80 years ago. Any questions, by the way, before we go further? No questions? This story actually happened around 70, 80 years ago. This happened with the Lubavitcher Rabbi, Rabbi Schneerson. There's a rabbi that has just died a few years ago. His name is Rabbi Gorelik. Gershon Gorelik? Gershon Mendel Gorelik. Do you guys like that Bartanura wine? The blue wine that's like champagne style?
Yeah, the white one?
Yeah, they call it the Bluetiful because it's blue but it's beautiful, the Bluetiful wine. If you look in the back, who gives the supervision that it's kosher? It says GM Gorelik, Gershon Mendel Gorelik. I mean, maybe they took his name off now because he died a couple of years ago. But he's the one that actually started kosher wine, giving, supervision in Italy. And I mean, even non-Jews buy it, and everybody loves that wine. Last time that we had the party, that was the first wine that finished. So this man, one time got a phone call. He lives in Milan, Italy. It's a very small village or small city close to Milan. So one night, it was a few days before Pesach, less than a week, he gets a phone call from the secretary of the Lubavitcher Rebbe. And he says, there's this city here next to you. Says, yeah, I know where that city is. So says the Lubavitcher Rebbe wants you to go and give 3 matzot to a Jew. So says, which Jew is it? Says, I don't know. The Rebbe just said, go to that city and find the Jew, give him 3 matzot. Okay? So now he has a week to Passover. And Chabad houses are very big. You're making public seders, right? Now we had it in the shul the first night, close to like 40, 45 people came. 50. But there was one time in a Chabad house, honestly, there's some Chabad houses, you get over 100 people. They have nowhere to go for Pesach. So they come there, they have Pesach, they make them, a lot of food. So he had to make a seder for close to 100 people in Italy. He had to make food for 100 people in Italy. And he says, well, I'm supposed to go to that city. I don't even know where the Jew is. But I have to make a seder here. He says, listen, the Rebbe said you have to go, you have to go. So he goes to that city, and he's going from place to place. Do you know any Jew here? Everywhere says, no Jews live here. The last remnant of Jews were before World War II. And either they ran away or Hitler killed them. There's no Jews here. So he goes for a day, for 2 days, he's looking and he doesn't find anybody. So I said, listen, I did my job, I tried, I couldn't find anyone. I have to go back to Milan to prepare for Pesach. So he gets into a taxi, I guess to go to the airport or something, and then the taxi had to stop to get gas. So when the taxi driver gets up to put in gas, he goes over to the what do you call the guys that stand by the pump? Attendant, something? The attendant? The attendant, yeah. That's okay. Yeah, gas station worker. So they go over to him and they say, you know what? Is there any Jews here? He asks him. So the attendant says, yeah, there is a certain hotel, and the rumor is, wow, it's right there. No, it's right there. Oh, you see, you did. I said, let there be light, and there was light. That's it. So anyways, they say the rumor is that the chef of that hotel is a Jew. So he goes, to find out. And he goes to the hotel and he says, listen, tells the taxi, don't take me to the airport, take me to the hotel. He goes to the hotel and then he says, yeah, by the way, can I see your chef? So they call the chef. Is the chef Jewish? Yeah, we think he's Jewish. The chef comes and he sees this rabbi, he passes out. He really fell on the floor. So when they revive him, he thought, he's going to the heavenly tribunal, the guy with the beard. No, that's not what happened. Anyway, so when they revive him, they ask him what happened. So the guy says the story. I want to tell you my story. He says, I'm the only Jew that lives in this town. And I wanted to get married. I wanted to get married to a Jewish girl. But as much as, I'm looking, there are no Jews here. And there is a priest. By the way, you guys know that the born-again Christians, they really believe the only way that the Messiah will come is if they make every Jew convert to Christianity. They believe that. And the proof is because in the New Testament, it says the solution is in the hand of the Jews. There's such a statement. The solution is in by the Jews.
Sorry, where does it say that?
In one of the verses in the New Testament. You ask, any Christian will tell you the solution is in the Jews. So how do they explain it? They say, for the second coming of the Redeemer, they believe that Jesus has a second coming. So for the second coming to happen and to save the world, all the Jews have to become convert. They have to convert to Christianity. They put billions of dollars to do that. Have you ever heard the Muslims for Jesus? No. Have you ever heard Buddhists for Jesus? But they have heard Jews for Jesus, right? Really, why did they put so much money to convert the Jews to Christianity? And actually, they were not successful. I'm just going to get off subject for a second. They were never successful because they would tell the Jews, forget about your Judaism and become a Christian. Jews would never want to let go of their Judaism. Now they came with a very smart tactic. They say you could keep whatever you want. You don't have to become un-Jewish. Eat matzah on Pesach, put on your tefillin if you want. All you got to believe is that Jesus is the Messiah. That's it. So now the Jew doesn't feel that it becomes un-Jewish because I'm keeping everything, right? So they put tons of money to get the Jewish people. If you go Google, the Christians sent actually teachers to universities in Israel. And they actually sent people dressed like rabbis to go into the Jewish quarter. And slowly, slowly, they were trying to get the Jews to convert to Christianity. It's a really big, big operation. And again, because the solution is in the hand of the Jews. So I mean, again, I don't have the exact words, but there's such a verse there. And the reason why I know, because when I was 15 years old, I was in Westwood one night. We used to get people to do mitzvot. So an Israeli guy came over to me and he showed me verses from the Navi, from the prophet, that Jesus is the Messiah. I didn't know how to answer him back. I knew the guy's saying garbage, but I didn't know how to answer him back. So I took a course at the University of Judaism, like 6-week course. At that time, it was only $99, very cheap, years ago. And actually, they brought us the proofs to disprove these guys. That whatever they bring is really not a proof. So anyway, so I learned all these things there. At any rate, so the guy says, my story is that, because I couldn't find the Jewish girls, so the priest used to come to me and tell me, listen, you know what? Convert. You have so many nice Christian girls. You're going to marry them. Your God forgot about you. It says the salvation is by the Jews, not the solution. The salvation. The salvation is by the Jews. So it says, the salvation is through, whatever Jesus. So that's what he told me, and I always said no. But I'm getting old. I want to have children. So I made a deal with God 3 days ago. I said, God, if you really did, you hear me, send me a sign that I'm important to you. If in 3 days I don't get a sign from you, I'm going to convert and get married to a Christian girl. So it says today was the 3rd day. Last night I couldn't sleep. I felt so bad that I'm going to convert. And then when it came today, I saw a rabbi. That's why I fainted. So I knew that, God heard my prayers. So then he gave him the 3 matzot. He realized why the Lubavitch Rebbe told him to go to this city to give matzah to this guy. And the guy had a certain prophecy and actually invited him to Milan. He came to Milan and he found a Jewish girl and he got married. But again, the story that what we learn from the story is, we can really sometimes very little minute helps. If we care about somebody, we do a small thing. Sometimes that small thing is a very, very big thing. Imagine somebody's dying from hunger, right? You just give him a peanut butter sandwich. Nothing big deal, nothing tasty. How much does he appreciate it? He's dying. He says, why you gave me life? If I'm going to give you a peanut butter sandwich, Rabbi, no, I don't like it. If it's beef, okay, fine. Peanut butter sandwich, nobody eats it. But if somebody's dying, that's a very important thing. You saved his life. So when you guys come across your friends, honestly, if they need help, you can do a little bit help. Why not? It's a very, very great thing to do. Any questions? No questions, for sure. Okay. We spoke about kosher last week, right?
Yeah.
I think we spoke about it. I really don't have much to speak tonight. Let me just put an end to this.